But we begin tonight with a flash flooding in California's Death Valley. The record rainfall, more than 6 months worth of rain, falling in just hours. The water coming fast, trapping cars and stranding nearly 1,000 people. The floods sweeping through the valley, catching many by surprise. One man saying the water was above his neck. Tonight, the rain has moved through, but all roads in and out of the national park remain closed. Some roads destroyed and cars buried in mud. This is the second major flooding event in a national park this summer. ABC's senior meteorologist Rob Marciano leads us off.
Tonight, Death Valley National Park in California remains closed after record rainfall triggered dangerous flash flooding, stranding about 1,000 people. More than half a year's worth of rain falling in a matter of hours, turning roads into rivers. Jeff Moreno from Vermont staying at a hotel with his wife and 3 children.
When I stepped out, it probably came up to just below my knee. Up by the park itself, the water was probably in spots, probably over your head.
It took about 6 hours for the family to make it out of the park. And this is the second significant flooding event at a national park this summer. Back in June, raging floodwaters wiped out roads in Yellowstone National Park. This bridge collapsing into the Yellowstone River.
Oh my gosh.
Several homes swept away in nearby Gardner, Montana. Studies show that extreme rainfall and flooding events will become more frequent and intense due to climate change. And tonight, the same parts of eastern Kentucky ravaged by flooding, now bracing for more rain.
So let's get right to Rob Marciano. And Rob, you're tracking more extreme weather across.
We turn now to Kentucky, where the death toll stands at 37, but that number is expected to climb as hundreds of people remain unaccounted for, following one of the worst flooding events in state history. More rain is in the forecast tonight for a community already devastated by the storms. Justin Michaels from our partners at the Weather Channel is on the ground in Kentucky.
I can see her face.
Dramatic footage shows the moment 98-year-old grandmother May Ambergy was rescued by neighbors who fought fast-moving water to get her and others to safety. Her family from out of state watching helpless.
I knew that they were very much in trouble. I did not know if my brother was alive for a while.
Today, search and rescue operations continued, and over the weekend, Governor Andy Beshear visited the areas most impacted by extreme flooding.
I've had to do a lot of things that are hard as governor, and that was certainly one of the hardest.
With hundreds still unaccounted for, the death toll is expected to grow. Among the victims, children, including 4 from one family swept away from their parents, the youngest only 18 months old. Search and rescue teams have conducted more than 1,400 missions by boat and by air. Authorities say it could take weeks to find all the missing and recover their bodies.
There are hundreds of unaccounted for people minimum, and we just don't have a firm grasp on that.
Fast-moving waters swept through eastern Kentucky last week, destroying roads and bridges and wiping out entire communities, leaving many residents with nothing. Jeremiah Fire Chief Wallace Bowling Jr. says his entire firehouse is destroyed. He spent 15 hours trapped on top of this rig, unable to communicate with anyone.
I was trying to tell my mom, my dad, and my kids that, if I never spoke to them again, I loved them.
The bad news continues here in Kentucky. More rain forecast this evening. A flood watch goes in place at 9 through 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And because this ground is so saturated, the water will have no place to go except downstream and eventually, potentially, and hopefully not, John, up.
Severe flooding in Kentucky. At least 28 people, including 4 children, are now reported dead. The strong currents swelled onto roads and swept away entire homes, destroying bridges and forcing thousands to evacuate. Now search and rescue teams are looking for survivors. ABC News' Eva Pilgrim is in Hazard, Kentucky with the latest.
Rain sweeping across Kentucky, battering the same neighborhoods already destroyed by catastrophic flash flooding.
This region has been hit harder than any of us have ever seen, maybe harder than any of us thought was possible.
Homes and businesses washed away, hundreds now living in shelters, dozens still missing. William Cook's brother-in-law is one of the missing. He's organizing search parties to find him.
They want closure. They know about what it is, but they just want closure.
Making things difficult, the size of the impacted area. This storm just the latest to devastate the area over the last several months. Teams of rescuers searching approximately 24 square miles. Canine units looking for survivors in mountains of debris.
We're seeing everything you can imagine, the remains of people's lives everywhere down this creek. Baby shoes and fourth grade pictures.
This complicating the search. Trained dogs picking up on even the smallest scent.
There's human scent in the water because others have drowned and been pushed through the water. There's human scent over everything that was in a home.
Among the stories of survival, the 17-year-old girl and her dog sitting on a roof after their home flooded. According to the teen's father, she placed her dog in that plastic container before swimming them both to safety. And with more than 1,000 rescues this weekend alone, authorities here are stepping up efforts as dozens remain missing.
This is what we do in Kentucky. We take care of one another.
And Eva Pilgrim is joining us live now from Hazard, Kentucky. Eva, we can see some of the damage behind you right now. What's the latest on that aspect of things and the search and rescue efforts?
Well, they are still very much actively involved in the search and rescue efforts here, Diane. That debris that you see behind me is actually a house, and I want to show you our drone shot. As the drone flies, you can see there are whole areas of the ground that there's concrete, but there's nothing on top of that concrete. Those were foundations to homes that were literally swept away by what was a creek is now this rushing river that's going through this area. The people who live here in this town, they tell me they've never had flooding here before. This is not in a flood zone. And some of these houses had 7 feet plus of water. The property that I'm currently standing on right now, the man told me that he rescued several of his neighbors using his excavator, neighbors that were trapped in trees, that were up on light poles. He was able to get them down. He put them in the back of his pickup truck, and he tied that truck to the top of that bridge. He told me that if it had rained just a little bit more, they would have all been gone. Diane.
Incredible. The one bright spot in these stories is neighbors helping neighbors, people coming out and really giving it their all. I know, Eva, though, thousands are still without power in the state. The federal government has approved relief funding for several of those most affected counties. So what's critically needed there right now for those who are most impacted?
Diane, they need everything. These people have lost literally everything that they own, anything in their homes. Most of that was destroyed. Even the areas around here that have power don't have water. So they need basic things like bottles of water so they can drink water, or if their house wasn't completely destroyed, they can put the water in the toilet to flush things down the toilet, that kind of thing. Literally, they have nothing. We've seen lots of different churches doing supply drives, trying to get the needed supplies to those people in these regions. Diane.
All right, Eva Pilgrim from Hazard, Kentucky. Eva, thank you.
Yeah, so as you know, this time last week, we were just starting to get a glimpse of what Eastern Kentucky was facing. And I had the chance yesterday to catch up with a member of a search and rescue crew that began saving lives as soon as they had the chance.
If I were to boil it down to one word, it would be complete and utter devastation. I mean, anywhere you go, it's hard to find someone who's not affected by the flooding.
These are the faces of helpers who wasted no time coming to the rescue.
What we were seeing were homes inundated with water up to their attics, and in some cases, folks trapped inside of their attics. This is all underwater. And so what we were seeing is anything and everything that can float was coming at us. So anything from houses and trees to shipping containers, if it floated, we were dodging it.
Team member Drew Stevens walked with me through all that's left. This week, we can walk through the devastation. Last week, this tight-knit community turned into a sea of tragedy.
This house was about a quarter mile upstream, and it floated down to here.
From one natural disaster to another in a matter of months, it seems like the bluegrass can't catch a break.
It does seem like Kentucky's had a rough year. Obviously, in December, we had significant damage in western Kentucky from the tornadoes in Mayfield. We're encouraging folks, if they're financially able, to donate financially to the recovery efforts. And if you're physically able, connect with an organized aid organization that is doing organized cleanup efforts. Put on your boots, put on your gloves, pick up a shovel, and help our neighbors clean up.
After all, it's what Kentuckians do.
If there's anything Kentuckians are good at, it's coming together and supporting each other. You know, our state motto is united we stand, divided we fall. And I think that motto is in no place better exemplified than here now.
It was scary because I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, because as soon as I got off the porch, I knew there was no turning back.
That was the do or die moment Chloe Adams said she had to make to get herself to safety. In the early hours of Thursday, July 28th, Adams was awoken by rain making its way into her home.
I woke up to a gurgling noise coming from my bathroom.
She says she looked out the window and water was moving in quickly. She grabbed her dog Sandy and rushed outside.
When the water was pretty much up to my waist in the house, and I knew I needed to get out,
She began to swim, knowing there was no turning back, but unsure of what would happen next.
I did have thoughts where I might die in this situation and I might lose my dog, you know. It was very scary.
She made it to the roof of a garage next to her uncle's home. Her parents were already there, working to keep her calm from a window. 5 hours went by. She and her dog were still stranded, but safety came around the corner.
I just jumped in the boat, and she was the first thing I saw when I rounded that bend.
Chloe's cousin Larry Adams came to her rescue and turned on his camera. The result, that viral video. He was amazed at her resiliency.
She made that incredible swim, if you could imagine. The river is here, the creek is there, and so the confluence is almost right in between. So she swam through current to get there.
Chloe saying that moment came at the right time as she was drained after what seemed like endless hours on that rooftop.
Really glad to be able to get off that rooftop and finally put my feet on land again and be able to walk out there safe.
Hoping that now her community can come together and rebuild what they've lost.
And Chloe tells me she's doing better today, but this experience was one that she never imagined would ever happen to her.
It really is incredible how many people saw that photo, it told the whole story. I mean, it was above the house. We know that her dog was with her. Also, it looks like she had some sort of cushion with her. What was that all about?
Yeah, that was one of the things that people all over social media noticed, Shay. She grabbed one of those cushions. She brought it out for her dog just in case if there was a chance that they get separated, hoping that her dog could float away on that, making sure that Sandy, her dog, would stay safe as well.
Well, you know, the river's gone down and it's not raining. That's good. But right where I'm standing here, there used to be a cabin. There was another house just beyond here that was carried away. The floodwaters may have receded, but they have left devastation in their wake.
Oh, it came up fast. Probably within 2 hours, it was chest high. I swear.
This is all that remains of Jimmy Campbell's home in Breathitt County, along the North Fork of the Kentucky River.
I had to carry my dog out in chest high water.
Campbell says he tried to drive away down this road through mud and floodwaters.
Then every which way we tried to go was blocked off, and we had to sit on the railroad track and basically just watch our house float away. And the house, it just picked up and just turned sideways and just floated into the trees and just demolished. By that time, you couldn't see it because it was all underwater. It was that high.
It's a story all too common in eastern Kentucky right now. At the Mountain Methodist Mission, people have come from all over the country to drop off donated items.
We've had stuff from Atlanta, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Indiana, all over Kentucky. I mean, it just keeps coming, and sometimes they won't let you know, but it doesn't matter because we're happy to see it anyway.
Locals stop by to pick up cleaning supplies or whatever else they need.
Rough. I've been working for the last 4 days of scrubbing and cleaning and picking garbage and trash up. That's worse than.
For Campbell, he may clean up, but he's not interested in rebuilding in the same spot.
It flooded here the past 2 years, and last year it was basically just the same. This year it just got probably about 5 foot more.
So you're looking to move to higher ground?
Yep. Yeah, I don't want to live here no more. There ain't no sense in it.
Now, luckily, Campbell's family was able to get out of here before the floodwaters came, so they weren't stuck here like he was. They also had 50 chickens, and Campbell says they were able to save 48 of them. Live in Breathitt County, Mark Vanderoff, WLK1.
Sajid Ali wades through the waters of his flooded cotton field after days of monsoon rains. He says his crop was worth around $7,500, and now he has to find another way to earn an income.
We'd been working so hard on this crop for months. I'd taken out a loan to plant it, but now I have to go and work on someone else's land because we can't make ends meet.
The damage is clear from above, with homes swept away and survivors living in tents. Around 60 families call this little town in southern Pakistan home, raising crops of cotton, chilies, and wheat. But now their livelihoods are in ruin. Huge chunks of agricultural land has been destroyed, and hundreds of homes have been swept away.
Our village thrives on cotton. We pay for our marriage functions, for construction of our houses from the income we get from the crop. It's costly to sow, but the income is also very high. This time, though, God willed it differently. The rains have devastated our crop almost entirely. We're sitting here at the mercy of God, with no help or rescue in sight.
In flood-hit regions nationwide, military and rescue agencies are struggling to reach those who've been stranded, with millions of residents at risk of developing waterborne diseases. And for this region already dealing with decades of drought, the monsoon rains should have been a welcome reprieve, not the cause of such destruction.
Along forest roads in Northern California, hillsides of roaring flames turn day into night. The McKinney fire now raging during a heat wave stretching across the Pacific Northwest. The blaze exploding in size over the weekend from 1 mile to 62 square miles in just over 24 hours.
Thundercells rolled in and the fire kind of got pushed down the canyon and it got wind driven, and that's kind of where we're at now.
Homes and vehicles lost, thousands evacuated. Venus Swinson and her daughter Jada live inside of the fire zone.
So at this point you have fire burning north, south, and along your sides.
Yeah, I mean, it could come from any angle at this point. It's just a matter of where the winds take it.
Just north, over 60 hikers on the popular Pacific Crest Trail extracted from the backcountry.
They had about 20 feet of visibility on the trail at the time that they, chose to call in and try to get some help.
While across the west, more fires flaring up, with erratic weather threatening to bring dry thunderstorms with dangerous lightning, but little to no actual rain. But at the devastating Oak Fire that burned over 100 homes, crews have finally gotten the upper hand. Meanwhile, heat alerts have been issued across Washington state and Oregon, where authorities are investigating at least 7 deaths that may have been heat-related.
And Kate, this extreme heat is once again expected to quickly spread east, bringing record-breaking highs to the Midwest, to the Great Plains, and as far away as Boston and New York by as soon as midweek.
Focusing now on wildfires burning in the west. Hot and dry conditions definitely not helping crews fight the McKinney fire, which has now killed 4 people in Siskiyou County, California. It's grown to more than 57,000 acres. It's the largest wildfire in the state this year. But a bit of good news this morning. Containment is now up to 10%.
So Max Gordon joining us now from the Fire Command Center in Eureka, California with the latest. Max, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Well, firefighters got a bit of a break this week with some thunderstorms that rolled into the area. That helped them increase the containment up to 10%, get a little bit of a foothold on this fire. And some evacuation orders have also been downgraded in some areas. Still about 1,300 people remain evacuated, but things are starting to dry out once again. Temperatures expected to get into the upper 90s over the next few days, with 101 expected on Sunday. Now, firefighters have been challenged by the steep, rugged terrain of the Klamath National Forest. Accessibility has been a big issue, with firefighters struggling to cut line in places where it would hold the fire's spread. The fire's been burning for 7 days now, first spotted last Friday. It initially had explosive growth, growing tens of thousands of acres in a few days. Now CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service are working together in unified command to get this fire under control.
Amy Chin joins us now. She is a New York Times international correspondent covering China. Amy, thanks for being here. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, a lot of people started wondering about China. I remember questions at that point about whether it would take the opportunity to launch an attack on Taiwan. Given what is happening now, does it appear that Beijing is actually moving towards that possibility?
I think it's really natural for people to make those comparisons and to wonder about that. But I think it's really important to remember the domestic situation in China right now. Even though we are seeing these tensions and this flare-up currently, it's actually a huge political year domestically for China's leader, Xi Jinping. He is set to take a 3rd term later this year. And I don't think he wants to be at a full-blown war and, leading up to this really unprecedented move that he's about to make. So it's not to say that this might not happen, in the years down the line, but I think that for now, analysts are saying that the chances of an imminent attack are not likely.
Amy, how much further do you think China is willing to go to punish Speaker Pelosi over her visit to Taiwan?
Well, they've already been, pretty forceful in their response so far. They announced sanctions on Speaker Pelosi and her family, even though those are mostly symbolic. These military drills, shortly after she landed in Taiwan, they announced that they would be conducting military drills in the waters and airspace around Taiwan from Thursday to Sunday. This is really unprecedented, and we haven't seen anything like this where they've been, exercising so close to Taiwan with live fire. Yesterday, they sent missiles into waters near Taiwan, even into waters near Japan. The missiles, some of them went over Taiwanese airspace, which is previously they hadn't done before. Today, on Friday, they continued to send ships and aircraft closer to Taiwan, passing the median line that separates the Taiwanese Strait. And so, it's already clear that they've really made this forceful response. I think that it is possible that there could be more actions in the coming days, but so far this is already a significant escalation.
Yeah, on that point, live fire, missiles into Taiwan's airspace, missiles into Japan's waters. Obviously, we expected a response from China. They told us that they would respond. But did the Biden administration actually expect this big of a reaction? And what is the U.S. likely going to do about it now?
I think of course, this is a significant response, but from what I hear from analysts, it's not, much beyond the boundaries of what has been expected. Certainly, everything's being monitored very closely, and I think that, the Biden administration is certainly trying to find ways, while still projecting force, but ways to de-escalate the situation. The concern, I think, is that there might be some sort of accident, some sort of mishap during this time. And so we saw, for example, the Pentagon announced that they would be postponing a routine ICBM test. They've sent an aircraft carrier strike group near to Taiwan, but not actually entering the strait. And so I think that, all sides are trying to sort of make a strong message, but not go overboard.
Amy Chen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu is defending House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island, saying Taiwan would continue to welcome Democratic politicians from around the world.
In an exclusive interview with the BBC, the foreign minister condemned China's large-scale military exercises around the island and warned that China's territorial ambitions go far beyond Taiwan.
This kind of behavior is highly dangerous and is provocative and is threatening regional peace and stability. And it is also disrupting the international trade and international transportation. And for that matter, the Taiwanese government seriously condemned the Chinese government for such actions.
Well, China says that Taiwan has brought this on itself.
We would like to maintain the status quo. The status quo that Taiwan, the Republic of China, has no jurisdiction over China, and the PRC has no jurisdiction over Taiwan. And this is a status quo. This is a reality. And Taiwan has also been a democracy. The Taiwanese people elected the Taiwanese government, and this is also a reality. What the Chinese government claims is an expansionism. Look at the Chinese behavior on Hong Kong, or claiming the East China Sea or the South China Sea. You can tell that this is a typical expansionism of an authoritarian state. And for this matter, I think the international community, particularly those countries in this area, need to watch out for what China has been trying to do. And Taiwan is not going to be the last piece in the Chinese dream of expansionism.
I think the rest of the world looks at what's going on now and has great sympathy for Taiwan, but also feels, well, we're not going to get into a shooting war with China over this.
Defending Taiwan is our own responsibility. And we have the will and we have the capability to defend ourselves. We may need other countries to work together with Taiwan, for example, to provide Taiwan with defensive articles, and we have been doing that. And we also need to engage in security exchanges with other countries, and we have also been doing that. But defending Taiwan is our own responsibility. We are not asking for other countries to sacrifice their own lives to protect Taiwan.
I think a lot of people will look at Ms. Pelosi's visit here and ask, how exactly does a visit like this increase Taiwan's security?
If you look at the way China has been working on Taiwan, trying to isolate Taiwan internationally, the Taiwanese government, especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has been working very hard in expanding Taiwan's international space, making friends with important international leaders, or trying to connect more with like-minded partners around the world. And for important leaders like Speaker Pelosi to have an opportunity to visit Taiwan is very significant. Raise the profile of Taiwan, allow the international community to understand what Taiwan is all about, to allow the international community to understand that Taiwan is a democracy.
It was like a coronation. Donald Trump had just won a straw poll of delegates by a landslide. He is the one the conservative base wants to lead the Republican Party into the presidential election of 2024. But even though he says he's made up his mind, Trump is still not announcing his decision. However, throughout the speech, Trump kept pledging that the country would soon return to what he called greatness.
I won twice and did much better the second time than I did the first, getting millions and millions of more votes than in 2016, and likewise getting more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country by far. And now we may have to do it again. We may have to do it again.
The speech was pretty much the same as the one he's been giving around the country in recent months, bemoaning the Biden presidency for undoing what he says he achieved during his 4 years in the White House. This week, however, he's injected a few sentences about Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan.
She played right into their hands because now they have an excuse to do whatever they're doing, and I will tell you, it would have never, ever happened in a million years under Trump. I can tell you that.
He tried to steal the last election.
A few days ago, former Vice President Dick Cheney released a campaign ad for his daughter Liz, warning Republicans against supporting Donald Trump. Cheney is seen as speaking for the Republican Party old guard, who may support the former president's domestic policies, but who feel Trump's attempts at subverting the last presidential election were the last straw.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
It was clear that Cheney had had no impact among delegates, not least because his daughter is one of 2 Republicans on the January 6th commission in Congress.
I think it's Dick Cheney.
What does that mean, though? He used to be a vice president that people supported in the Republican Party.
Right.
What's changed?
Well, isn't that Liz Cheney's father?
She's the problem.
Dick Cheney was a war guy. You know, he loved war. That's where this country made made money. And I just wish that all of these politicians were they had their time. They had their time to make a difference on this country. Just shut up and let Trump do what he needs to do.
As far as those here are concerned, the last presidential election was stolen. And in fact, Trump's popularity has increased in the CPAC straw poll by 10 points since the commission began its hearings. His status as a victim of an establishment conspiracy has been confirmed for those here. As far as CPAC is concerned, the Republican Party is the Trump Party now. In addition, if Trump does run in 2024, there's the expectation that the Republican establishment will rally behind him anyway, just as it did the last time.